So for people who may not know about us, I'm just going to talk a little about TechForce, first of all, and then I'm just going to introduce my guest here with me as well. So first of all, I'm Abrar. I'm a cybersecurity analyst at TechForce. We are a cybersecurity company who is based in Aberdeen, and we provide loads of services starting from cybersecurity awareness to standardization, certification services like Cyber Essentials Plus, incident response as well, along with penetration testing. So yeah, there's loads of what we do. So today I have with me the owner of TechForce, the OG of the cybersecurity industry here in the Scotland, UK. And today I'm just gonna be doing this session with him where I'm just gonna ask him a few of the questions that we usually get. And I think they are really important for us to get knowledge from. And yeah, so Jay, what I'm going to do is I have penned down a few questions that we have received from our different social media platforms, and I'm just going to ask you them, and you can shed some light on that, and we can take it from there.
Okay.
Right? Perfect. So the first one, this is a common one. So basically, what are the key cybersecurity trends that you see and challenges in the coming years? And most importantly, how your organization is addressing them. So yeah.
Okay, great
Yeah.
question. First of all, thanks for the intro, Mr.
Right.
Khan. Right. The it's a usual question everywhere, isn't it?
Yeah.
So the biggest challenge we are seeing right now is you have two spectrums, right? So on one end, there are large businesses fighting the nation state hackers, right? And on another end, there are businesses that are even struggling to even get to the baseline cyber controls, right?
Yeah.
So, for example, there are businesses that are even struggling to enable two-factor authentication, and we have had few incidents over the last couple of months, just helping them, right?
Yeah.
And you have another challenge where the rise of artificial intelligence. So as much as it is useful, handy tool technology for all of us, the good guys, it is same for the bad guys as well, right? The bad guys can adopt faster. So you
Yeah.
have AI-driven ransomware attacks, cyber attacks, AI-driven malware, and I have recently come across something very interesting, right? AI driven voice, and somebody could replicate any accent, any language,
Yeah.
anybody, if there is enough data for it to feed, right?
Yeah.
And they can call you and trick you into that person.
Yeah.
For example, we had a company recently where their accounts department received a call,
Yeah.
and they said they're calling from their bank fraud department,
Right.
and they sounded extremely professional. They sounded like a bank, and the
Yeah.
person almost fell for it, right? And we are going to see lots of them, AI-driven attacks, right? The one of the trend, again, yeah, adoption of cloud usage since the COVID has escalated a lot.
Yeah.
Now we don't see many businesses using on-prem technologies anymore.
Right.
So again, using the machine learning, AI in the usage of those technologies increasing a lot.
Yeah.
So how our business is protecting?
Yes.
We always taken an approach of a partner for the business, right? A cybersecurity partner for the business,
Right.
a trusted partner. So we do the consultative approach, impartial advice. We go into the business, see where they are, we assess them against the standard framework, and we using the industry best practices, risk management methods.
Right.
We set a roadmap for the business to go from where they are to, let's say, they're scoring 3 out of 10, and then how can we get them to 7 to 8 over the next 6 months or 1 year? So whereas we act as a trusted partner.
Right.
Many times we work with businesses that have in-house IT team, excuse me, and sometimes that have businesses that don't have anybody in-house.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Also, one thing I would like to ask you about is because you deal with many of the businesses, do you think their approach to cybersecurity is kind of reactive rather than being proactive?
yes,
Yeah.
as much as I would like to say no, it's not the case,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So, I can give lots of examples, but there are instances where we actually went in and offered our services to customers. They said, hey, that's fine, nothing will happen to us. Nobody is interested in our data or company or things like that, right?
Yeah.
And then, months later or sometimes a year later, they were breached,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
Um, and then when they were breached and they were like, oh, okay, right, we were breached, we need to get you in. How much is service? Now you're talking cost. They would have spent like 10% or a fraction of a cost what they're spending now at the time of the breach
Right.
before, and they could have prevented this,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, it depends on the business culture and the business leaders. Again,
Right.
cybersecurity is not just the IT's job.
Yeah,
It's has to come
my
from them.
next question as
Yeah.
well, because I think people treat cybersecurity as just as a technology.
Yes.
So they'll always talk about cyber solutions,
Yes.
getting those firewalls, getting
Yeah.
those incident response things and all that. But what happens in real life is you just need a one phishing email.
Yeah.
Sometimes,
Yeah.
if your employees are not up to that mark, they don't
Yeah.
have those security awareness.
Yeah.
So that can cost you
Yeah.
the same thing. So no matter how much you invest, but these are those.
Cybersecurity
Yeah.
is the way of doing things. It's a
Yeah.
culture, right?
Yeah.
Rather than just technology is part of it.
Yeah.
But as you rightly said, people see it as just technology. People see it as just IT department job, right? But in reality, it's not. It's everyone's job, and it has to come from the top.
Right.
And also, I worked as an IT manager in the past, so I know the challenges that goes on the IT departments and IT managers or whoever it is taking it to the board. We need to be the better communicators of the risk to the board as well, right? To the
Right.
senior team, and the
Right.
cybersecurity, the culture has to be coming from the top.
Right.
Then everything will fall into the place.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah, when you say reactive and proactive, if the senior management is more proactive in all their approach, then
Yeah.
you would see most of the times they are proactive in cybersecurity as well. And sometimes, yeah, well, when I say reactive, it doesn't have to be this certain business they were breached and they were trying to do something with security.
Right.
But sometimes what happens is somebody in their line of industry or line of business
Yeah.
got breached, and now everybody else is thinking, oh man,
We need to do
we
something.
need to get our ducks
Yeah.
in order,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So yeah.
Right. Perfect. So there's another one as well, which says that in an event of a cybersecurity incident, let's say,
Mhm.
what is your organization's incident response plan? How do you cope up with that?
So, well, my organization
Yeah, yeah, yours. Ours
will
too.
pull all the plug, will
Yeah.
pull all the cables.
Mm. Okay.
No, right. So we have a robust incident response plan.
Right.
So when we do practice it every often,
Right.
and we do work with lots of businesses on incident response, right? This is an interesting one. So I speak to, on my day-to-day life, I speak to lots of IT managers,
Right.
and I speak to them about, hey, do you have a disaster recovery plan? And they say, yes, yes. So did you test it? Yes, yes, we tested it 2 weeks ago, 2 months ago, whatever it is.
Right.
And do you have a cyber incident response plan? Yes. Did you test it? No.
No. Right.
Right?
Right.
How
Yeah.
many times, disaster recovery plans? I know this, as I said, I worked in IT. So
Yeah.
you're planning for floods and fire and,
Everything.
all these scenarios, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And there are very rare the floods will occur and the
Right.
fire will occur.
Right.
But if you're looking at cyber incident response,
Yeah.
yes, it will. Cyber incidents happens often. So yeah, and we don't rehearse. So we
Right.
go and help businesses look at their cyber incident response plan and how quickly can they act in when the cyber incident response happens, and yeah, and try to do a tabletop exercise, like who plays what roles in terms of
Right.
when the incident happens. A tabletop really gives. It's all good having a plan,
Right.
right?
Right.
And the plan,
Yeah.
but when stuff happens, we're in a panic mode, right? We don't know what to do,
Right.
right?
Right.
So it's good to practice, like rehearse. Okay, let's say. your user starts reporting, um, a blank screen or an encrypted message, ransomware message on the screen,
Right.
starts reporting to you, right? What are you
Right.
going to do? Who's going to do what? Who's going to contain the incident? Who's going to speak to the media? Who's going to speak to the senior management? Who's going to speak to the law enforcement?
Right.
Some
Yeah.
cases, not everybody is involved, but yeah, you need to sit down around the table and do an exercise.
Right.
It builds a muscle memory and it tests your incident response plan as well.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay. So another one. As a cybersecurity professional, how do you evaluate or prioritize vulnerabilities to find out what are the most critical ones that you need to deal with first?
Hmm, good one, right?
Yeah.
So we use industry best tools,
Right.
and there are risk management frameworks we follow.
Okay.
So we use scanning tools like Tenable, Nessus, Qualys, Rapid7, whatever, regardless of the vendor. The idea is to scan for the vulnerabilities regularly
Right.
and then score them. Well, these tools automatically gives you a score, and then we
Yeah.
manually check those vulnerabilities,
Yeah.
scoring, verify them, and then look at the critical vulnerabilities and high, mediums. Critical ones are the ones you need to be attending fairly straightforward.
Straightforward. Yeah.
And sometimes we do have to check with the vendors as well
Yeah.
if it's really a vulnerability or if
Yeah.
there is a patch available.
Yeah.
So yeah, it continues. This is again, we see, well, from my experience, there are certain size of companies. Once you go to that size, when we're speaking to them, they say they have something in place, right?
Right. Right.
They have some tool doing the vulnerability management. Um, Sometimes they buy the tool, they don't use it.
Yeah.
That's a different
Yeah.
thing. But yeah, but especially SMBs are the ones which struggle either with the budgets or whatever the reason it is. So we would highly encourage to have something in place for vulnerability management.
Right.
Even some antivirus like EDR tools nowadays are doing the vulnerability management as well, and Microsoft has a good offering. So many things.
Right, right. Makes sense. So yeah, there's another one. You may have noticed that in modern age, like many companies, they work with third-party vendors and other companies. How do they do risk management in this case? So basically, when they're dealing with vendors and partners who may have access to sensitive information, how should they go about it? And
So when you're dealing with supply chain, third-party
yeah,
vendors, and your suppliers
yeah,
and your customers, whoever it is, whoever you're sharing your data with,
yeah,
your sensitive data, your data that is valuable to you,
yeah,
general rule of thumb is make sure they have the security standards you are expecting them to have,
right,
right? So many companies now, well, it used to be the case in the past. They send a questionnaire, a Word document or something, or Excel document, and suppliers will go through the Excel document, put in
right,
the answers, they
right.
evaluate, and they say, yeah, you're good to go,
Good to go.
right? But nowadays we are seeing more and more businesses asking the supply chain to be, to have an industry standard accreditation or certification,
Right,
right? You're looking at sometimes, some cases, very rarely, some cases asking the businesses to have ISO 27001, and in most cases now, cyber essentials.
yeah,
Um, there is another one, NCSC 10 steps of cybersecurity we follow when we're conducting the assessment. But the problem is you can't get any accreditation at the end of it. So,
no,
excuse me, the cyber essentials is an accreditation you can get. And especially if you look at any government public sector bodies, they're
yeah,
pushing all their supply chain to have cyber essentials, right?
right, right,
So yeah, look at the standards, do the regular checks, and also I have seen some businesses, like you need to check the box of for them to come and audit us whenever they require to audit, right?
right.
So the basic ethos is make sure they have the standards you're expecting them to
Makes
have.
sense.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
yeah, and verify them.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Perfect. So there's another one I would really like to ask. You know, cloud services.
yeah.
These are the ones that, how do we basically ensure that the security of data in cloud remains intact for businesses, especially? Like, should we use MFA only? Like, Should we use any vendor recommended products? Like, what do you recommend, like, for cloud security
That's a difficult question, man.
generally? No, just
Right.
your
No,
according.
that's a good question, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, we see cloud adoption a lot
yeah,
recently, right?
yeah,
Especially since COVID, as I mentioned earlier.
yeah.
So, MFA, once you go into the cloud, the most precious thing is data,
Right. Yeah,
right? You
yeah,
need to know where your data is
yeah.
and who has access to that data,
Right.
who has the permissions, yeah, right?
Permissions. Right.
So although most cloud providers provide a foundational level security controls,
Right.
but the responsibility still lies with the data controller, right? So the businesses still holds the responsibilities for all the access controls and make sure they have that nobody should have the access they shouldn't have, right?
Right.
So I would ensure, as you rightly mentioned, two-factor authentication, encryption methodologies, the
Yeah.
data at rest, data in transit,
Yeah.
and look at what the entry points are for
Right.
a bad actor, threat actor, and
Similarly, backups and stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, yeah, that's a good one you mentioned, right? I,
Yeah.
I almost forgot. So yeah, there are people I have encountered in the past.
Yeah.
I don't want to keep on bashing, but even in me as well, at some point, I did think, cloud was a backup.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but cloud was a backup when you have another copy on your desktop, on your
Yeah.
laptop or something, right?
Right.
And then you set up a Google Drive or a Dropbox, and you can have a secondary copy, which is a backup.
Yeah.
But the problem is when we perceive our entire data is in cloud, just one copy, and they think it is a backup.
Yeah.
That's the problem,
That's the
right?
problem.
So you need to have a secondary one.
Right.
Look at what happened with Maersk, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
told
So
I told you about the
yeah.
incident,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
they had their primary backup and the secondary backup on the same network, and they both were wiped when they had the ransomware incident.
Right. Yeah. Makes sense. Makes
Yeah,
sense.
so you had to be isolating them as well. Yeah,
Isolating them as well.
yeah.
Makes sense. Perfect. So these were some of my questions. Now I'll just let the audience, if they have any questions, if you want to ask to me or Jay, you're free. And uh, we have like three people, I guess,
Yeah.
with us.
Some of them don't want recording on. So do you want to stop recording and then they can ask questions? Put the video
Yeah,
on.
yeah, that would be perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be okay.
Or do you want to keep it on? It's up to you.
Okay, then I think they can post the questions like in the comment section as well, and then we
Yeah.
can
Okay.
take it
Yeah.
from there if that works. Like
Yeah.
if they can pin them in the chat,
Yeah.
would that be okay?
Cool.
Or if I don't see any, then I'll just continue the conversation with you. And
No, you met your
we'll talk.
quota for today.
Okay, right. So yeah, one thing I personally have felt, and I would like to discuss with you, for most of the companies, when they try to go through Cyber Essentials or Cyber Essentials Plus, at first they are like very much enthusiastic. And as they just go with the process, like, I don't know what happens, but they feel like it's too technical. And then they just drop it and they just don't take it as a security thing. And when the deadline is just like around the corner, they just come back and say that, yes, we do care about cybersecurity, we do care about everything, and we just want to get it done. So what do you think? Do really organizations are taking cybersecurity seriously, or they're just taking it for compliance reasons or stuff?
That's a good question, Abrar. So I'll take a different approach.
Right.
So me and Libby were at an event earlier this week. We met Stephen Bartlett.
Right.
You know Stephen Bartlett?
Yeah.
Now you do.
Yeah, now I do. Yeah.
So Stephen Bartlett is a very top popular guy, extremely popular.
Right.
So he was saying something about, you're happy when your life's expectations are met.
Right.
You're not happy when your life expectations are not met. As simple as that, right?
Right.
So that's why there are, this is psychology, and some great companies invest in psychology, people's psychology.
Right.
So what you're asking here is about cyber essentials and people want, why they do what they do. It's the perception, right?
Right.
It's their expectation.
Right.
So their expectation is Cyber Essentials is easy,
Easy.
straightforward, simple, right?
Simple.
And that's their perception. And actually, it is true in a way,
Right.
but lots of people don't know about Cyber Essentials Plus, right? 'Cause that's what you're asking, right?
Yeah.
So when
Yeah.
they come to the Plus, there
Yeah.
is a technical audit,
Yeah.
and when we do the technical audit,
Yeah.
the skeletons will come out of the closet,
Skeletons. Yes.
right?
Yes.
And they're not happy, you know.
Right.
Oh, we didn't know this process is long. Oh, we didn't know we have so many vulnerabilities. Oh, we didn't know we have server 2008 still there, you know.
Right. Yeah.
Now they need to get an extended support or just upgrade the server. And on one end, their sales team or their senior management team is saying, we need Cyber Essentials now. We need to go for a tender, right?
Yeah.
So it's the perception awareness. Um, that's why we have the challenges from people. Yeah.
Right. Makes
But
sense.
if what we discussed earlier, if the businesses are doing what they supposed to do, best practices, it doesn't happen in most cases for a number of reasons. Um, yeah, there shouldn't be a big challenge to achieve the certification.
Right.
Yeah, but again, I see the certification as a continuous process then rather than a one-off assessment because it only happens once in a year.
Right.
But it should be ideally looking at, you know, as a continuous process or at least every quarterly assessment or something, just a mock assessment. Um, if any of you looking for Cyber Essentials, Ashley asked me to tell you we are offering 20% off this month. You have 2 days left.